Shut up and sit down.
Welcome, Bi-Conic's wrestling fans, to The Bro, the Bi-Conic's Review of Honor. Here we are reviewing Ring of Honor from the 16th of November, which was actually two tapings of Ring of Honor smashed together to make one show. I am JVL, here with El Jefe, Mikey on the ones and twos and keeping us in line. Andrew, back in his own abode here, joining us again. And we are we sans Jesse? Jesse, are you there?
Come on with the traffic already. I'm going to be so late.
Yeah, I guess he's a little busy. He's still recovering from carrying all of us on his back last week and taking Mikey for a trip while Andrew and I were gone. So thank you to Jesse and thank you to Mikey for doing a better show than we did beforehand when we got all the views, when Bronson from the freaking Iron Savages liked our stuff. So, you know, maybe Andrew and I need to leave and Mikey needs to run this on his own. I don't know. So we are here to review this Ring of Honor going into the weekend of Full Gear, but they didn't mention Full Gear that much. They focused on Final Battle and anything to do with ROH, and we had a crossover the other way coming down to us as well, which is our first match of the night. So, gentlemen, tell me what you think. We had one of my favorite jobbers to the stars, Pretty Peter Avalon, taking on Trent Beretta with the best friends. Basically, they all came down for a fun match, and it was more competitive than I gave it credit for. I thought it was really fun. Let me know, did you enjoy this as an opener to start off Ring of Honor at this way?
I wasn't overhyped about this match when I saw it. I mean, I know they're both really good performers, so I wasn't expecting anything bad out of this, but it was a really good opener. Some really good counters between the two of them, and some really good exchanges. So I thought this was a great way to open up the card.
Anytime Pretty Peter Avalon is on my screen, I'm always happy to see him on my screen. I also am a big fan of Trent Beretta, so putting these two together was extremely fun to open up Ring of Honor. And then, after the match was over, the announcement that we got before we went into our next segment made me even more happy, because I swear Ring of Honor is listening to us, because we've had this biggest complaint about certain things. And what's going to happen next week? Trent is going to be facing Katsuyori Shibata for the Pure Championship.
All the champions seem to be coming home. They're going to be defending their titles, which may lead into some of our predictions for Full Gear tomorrow if things go the way they should be, even though it's two AEW teams competing for the ROH tag titles. This proved, kind of like NXT's been doing for the last year, that you can also cross-pollinate the other way and bring some of your stars from your main TV shows on the networks down to the internet show and have some fun that way. So really cool to see them bring them together and honestly do more of this. I want to see some of the AEW talent come down, showcase off, and be a good ambassador to Ring of Honor. I mean, hell, half of them came from the original one anyway, so why not? We go from that announcement and we having Shibata versus Beretta, which I can't wait for, to Dalton Castle with Lexi, talking about how he is going to have a hell of a main event tonight, taking on the champion out of nowhere, no build, Eddie Kingston. Give me your perspective on overzealous and kind of crazy Dalton Castle, guys.
I loved his jacket, first off. The jacket was amazing.
I found it. It's $170.
Phew. So good, though. So good, and it fits so perfectly. I really wish that we would have gotten more build for this, which is really weird to say because I feel like we've gotten a Dalton Castle build. But it seems like it was only the first leg of the build, and so it was like we jumped to the finish too soon, which kind of set me up for my feelings about how the match kind of turned out. But there were parts of this kind of promo that he did that almost made me feel like he was acknowledging that we were all pretty aware that he was going to lose. I'm hoping this is just kind of a bump because Dalton Castle needs to be one of the main focuses of ROH.
I love Dalton Castle anytime he's on my television screen. I'm not as bummed knowing that he would lose going into this, only because I'm going to be playing the waiting game to see how the next couple weeks leading into Final Battle treat our lovable Dalton Castle. And hopefully they will build him, if anything, either to get that television championship or, I don't know, if we want to run Eddie and Dalton back again. I'm not opposed to it. Because honestly, right now, he's really the only person I can see, if they want to run it back right now that has built up to go up against Eddie at Final Battle.
I would have loved, and this is spoiling kind of the end of the match when Kingston gave his promo after the match. If they had set this up as, I'm taking him on, we're challenging each other in honor of our fallen, compatriot Brody, then definitely, like Brody Lee, that would have given me enough to see what this was, and I've been on board with it. I am liking his need to win. I think a maniacal, narcissist, evil Dalton Castle will be very interesting, which could then take on Eddie or go into the television title tournament. We're going to see more from him. We then move from there to, honestly, I was happy to see the Outrunners not be jobbed out. They get to do the job into someone else. The Outrunners got a squash match. We're going squash because, the full Macho Man squash thing against Jacoby Watts and Sebastian Wolf. This was tight, hard, and comedic to a point. But seeing them work harder as heels this time instead of just being the comedy duo was really fun to see against, two jobbers that have been on a couple weeks. Did you guys enjoy your trip back to the 80s?
Oh, heck yeah. I love the comparisons that commentary kept making about them to different tag teams. And I think something that makes the Outrunners so fun to watch is they're really good at playing this comedic bit that they've got going on and buying into it 100%. But at the same time, if you look past that, they're also really good tag team wrestlers. Like, they bring back that classic style, and they do it really well while also being really entertaining. And so for me, even though this was kind of a squash match, I think that the Outrunners got to show a lot of that, which kind of made me feel like it was a little more than just that.
I am a wrestling fan that really, really loves the campiness of wrestling. And the Outrunners winning in this match made me really, really happy. And the fact that they are leaning into a bygone era of the aesthetics and just the comedy bits of wrestling. I would love to see them down the line hold the tag team championships at some point. And I think this is a great gimmick. And this is what the Varsity Blondes should have been, but was not.
We then move on to another backstage promo with Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal talking about their upcoming match with the, super dream team luchador team of Commander, who is tagging with every luchador on the roster right now, and Hijo de Vikingo. It was kind of a standard boilerplate. Like, they deserve the respect. They've been here for years. They really love their other team they're up against. This kind of, for me, highlighted that this is definitely the Christopher Daniels, retirement tour, where he's going through and putting over everyone he can. And Sydal's along for the ride at that point. They're doing their greatest hits. Because we move on to a match that, while a squash, I absolutely loved, because this was just a showcase of what hard-hitting, amazing Joshi wrestling can be, with Emi Sakura basically destroying Kel, who is with the local talent. First off, the giant bruise on Emi's arm. What match was she in where she got that giant bruise? I'd love to know more about it. And then the power she showed at the end with the stalling butterfly backbreaker. Emi Sakura is a joy to watch. You two, was this one of the matches of the night for you? Like, not the match of the night, but a match of the night?
It was a lot of fun, especially for another basic squash match. Just seeing Kel in the ring just tower over Sakura was just really cool to see. I heard she's 6 foot tall, so she's a tall woman, and so to see them go back and forth, it was really fun, and it gave Sakura a chance to really display that hard hitting style. There were a couple of appearances by local talent this week that kind of made me want to hope some of them find a route in, because I'd like to see ROH build wrestlers that aren't, basically just people AEW doesn't have enough time to book on their 3 other shows. I liked the little bit with Sakura and the referee at the end of the match.
I'm always a fan anytime I get to see Emi Sakura on my screen. She is phenomenal. I love her. Great showing. 10 out of 10.
Perfect. And then we get more Outrunners. We get a promo in the style of Macho Man and the Ultimate Warrior.
This was
where
so
they're
chaotic.
walking around
I loved it.
It's backs to the camera. It's full on nostalgia. These two know their craft. These two know the craft and are just they're fully immersed in it, and that's what makes it fun. If they were half-assing this or not living the gimmick, it would be a total bust. But because they go so far and they're committing to the truth and the joy of it, I am drawn in for this.
Sweat will never be known as anything other than sports gloss at this point. That was so good. It's so
They need to
good.
trademark that immediately.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's a Dalton Castle line too, so like they got to get it quickly before he grabs it. So,
oh, that was so good. Oh, sorry to go back, but Aubrey Edwards selling the the sports gloss after the match when she's like,
it's so good. Oh my god! So the Outrunners, with some of the new favorite teams, they need to, as you said, take on and go up those ranks, build up that tag team division. It's going to be wonderful. Speaking of tag teams, we go from the Outrunners and their insane promo to the Bollywood Boys actually getting an entrance, being part of the roster tonight against the Boys. Double duty tonight for the Boys. The Boys with new masks too, like the full ones that stay on their faces and stuff.
love it.
See, I was on the opposite side of the fence. I don't know how I'm feeling about them wrestling in the masks. I liked them as the entrances, but I don't know if I'm fully signed on for the masks yet. I just enjoy their facial expressions. I mean, they're so vocal, you hear them throughout the whole match anyway. It was good. I'd like to see the fact that these two tag teams actually got to go out and be tag teams. There were no shenanigans from the outside. There were other multiple tag teams wrestling against them. And they got to go out there and kind of show what they could all do, especially because it's one of the, like they said in commentary, it's one of the few tag teams that both sides are about the same size. So we got to see a lot of that. And so I hope we get to see more from both of these teams help develop tag team wrestling.
Again, the Boys are great. I think it was Brandon. Brandon got a lot of offense in for the majority of this match, and I was very impressed. Brandon was MVP for me this entire match. Just how quick and how a lot of kicks were being utilized, and I'm a sucker for any type of wrestling that involves lots of hard strikes with the feet. So it is always a good thing.
We move on then from another tag match. We go to our Tony Khan promo of the night, and it's your standard Tony Khan isn't comfortable in front of a camera and isn't comfortable about doing much, but he announces...
Someone took him hostage again.
They did. He's holding a newspaper up to make sure we know what day it is. It's really just, it's terrifying sometimes, but I know also he's probably very, very neurospicy, so I can't fault him on that. He's passionate about it and he wants to talk about it. He just has to repeat the town name multiple times. He announces that we're going to have a 6-man survival of the fittest match for the ROH title at Final Battle. To get to that, we're going to have a tournament to get people into that match. Obviously, this was in the background when they were doing the much maligned Samoa Joe vacating of the title. I'm still worried because with the way that they vacated the title, it kind of puts the title on a very low rung, and so it's going to kind of affect whoever takes it on next as, are you worthwhile because this title isn't? This gives it a chance to get multiple people involved, but it still is kind of like, you didn't have to do it the way you did it to set this up. You could have had this and run with it.
I mean, I feel like Ethan Page is going to probably be in the tournament and probably a big favorite, especially if they're going to push Dalton Castle into the world title. I feel like Ethan Page is one of the people that makes the most sense to kind of be the face, and he's someone who could re-elevate that title if he wins it. I wasn't thrilled with the way that this all happened. I think there were better options for setting this up. But at the same time, there are some possibilities for them to actually do some good with this. I would like to see this tournament made out of as few AEW wrestlers as possible and actually get to see some Ring of Honor or some new signees to Ring of Honor. They can bring this up and not only like elevate the title, but hopefully use this 6 to 12 people theoretically involved in like creating an actual division for the title.
I'm a little worried of who is going to end up making the final cut for this match, only because right now Ring of Honor already has a big problem with finding enough people for tag teams. So finding like true single stars is going to be difficult. So they're probably going to have tag teams be entered as singles competitors. Out of the 6 people, there are only really there's only really a few names that I would definitely want to see for sure. I get the feeling that somebody from Shane Taylor Promotions is going to end up in there. It'll probably be Shane Taylor because You know what I mean?
He just failed to get it from Joe. So yeah.
Yes. If we don't push Dalton towards Eddie Kingston, Dalton should be the winner of this match and should carry that title because Dalton's personality, charisma, and in-ring talent needs to carry Ring of Honor into the new year. And the only other thing that I asked for, I'm asking Santa Claus, like Krampus, like whatever Christmas entity that you want to subscribe to. I need one of the Iron Savages to be in that match just because I think it'd be hilarious and it'd be great.
I can also see they're probably in the tournament going to have Action Andretti and Darius, Dante Martin.
Which I'm okay with. I would prefer to see Action in there over Darius. Actually, I would prefer Lee over Shane Taylor, if I'm being honest, too, to be in there as well.
Gringo Loco would be great to put in there.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You know, any of these guys. So
you know what? Just give me all the luchadors and we'll just do it that way.
Oh yeah, the luchador division in the tournament will be great. But yeah, so that's what's coming up going into Final Battle. I'm glad they're going to have a big match for this title. It's not going to just be like one person against one person, but they've got to work through the devaluation of the title to begin with. So we'll see how it goes. We then go from the owner of said company to a tag team on their own on an island. They're kind of by themselves, setting up a division by themselves. And this promo, as I took away from it, was the first time I actually understood more about them and cared about the Renegades than I had in a while, setting up the fact they've been together for nearly 23 years as a tag team. That sparked me. I'm like, you guys have known each other basically as sisters or whatever for a very long time. You are good as a tag team. You are people to me now, and now I care and want you to do better.
I am someone who hates the overlapping of AEW and Ring of Honor, but if we're going to do it, I would love to see some form of tag team title for women, since they're not going to have a tag team title that's any gender. So I would like to see something that women's tag teams can wrestle for across both companies. Other than that, and that's just because we have one women's tag team, basically. But other than that, no. I mean, I did like the fact that when Maria popped in, she was in very similar colors and styles to the Renegades. So I like that little play there, like she was trying to connect to them, and I think that played into some of the stuff that happened later in the night.
I called it last week when me and Jesse reviewed this, because with Rachel and Layla being paired up by Maria, I said she's going to be puppet mastering this whole thing because she wants Layla to find the killer instinct, whatever version of Go Find Yourself storyline that we're getting with Layla. And with her pulling the Renegades to the side to talk business, I'm just like, I love it when I'm right.
We then move on to our tag match with Athena and Billy Starks taking on Brody Hawk and Johnny Robbie. Again, this is a squash match, but it was a showcase of the killer instinct that Billy Starks is developing, and commentary calling out Athena is going more colorful because of Billy, so they're affecting each other.
Yes,
this was amazing to tell that story, and my God, seeing Billy Starks in that submission, big smile on her face, is eerie, but also amazing, and I'm so here for it. Oh God, loved this match wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I mean, it started with Billy Starks when she snapped on the referee and did Athena's "Don't tell me what to do" moment. And we saw this before when, a few, weeks ago or a month ago, when Athena held back because Billy asked her to, and then later on we also saw Billy kind of go a little farther than she did. So we've been seeing this kind of mixing of attitudes, and I'm really enjoying how Billy, instead of fighting it, she's starting to kind of accept it and be changed by it. This was one of my matches of the night, simply for the storytelling that we got to see in the match and afterwards. This is one of the most intriguing stories in Ring of Honor and in a lot of wrestling right now, because they're taking their time to craft a really good story, and all three of the performers in it are doing such a good job. The two of them with Lexi, it's masterpiece.
This match had my move of the night, in the sense, not necessarily from our team MIT, as we're going to call them. I actually liked that when Athena went to go kick the back of her opponent and laugh, Athena got rocked with the forearm. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, somebody call the ambulance, because that looked like it sounded bad. and it looked like it hurt like hell. At this moment of the show, I loved the dynamic we got, because then it's going to turn a little bit, because I have words for Athena when we get to the backstage segment.
We then go from that wonderful match to another backstage promo. Lexi talking to Ethan Page about how he's kind of been spinning his wheels with the Tony Nese situation and how he's feeling about this. Interrupted by Smart Mark Sterling, who has an injunction against him for tonight, as well as putting in paperwork to get his last match thrown out. So Ethan Page counters with, well, you should throw out my 2 matches for interference as well. And it kind of bubbles over to Ethan Page. He's like, I'm not done. Apparently, I'm not done with this. Kind of nice little wink to the camera, like, this is going to continue. Did this do anything for you guys? Was this needed?
I don't know that this feud is really needed. I wasn't happy when Ethan Page broke his win streak. I thought they were building it up nicely. The one thing I did really enjoy about this is we got to see that Ethan Page can not only keep up or surpass many people on the microphone, he can do it against multiple people. He was running circles around both of these guys backstage and doing it in such a casual way. It's so great that if nothing else, it just made me even more a fan of Ethan Page and just want him to move on past these two.
I hated this. And here's why. I like all 3 people that were involved. Smart Mark is really fun. I love Tony Nese. I mean, I love to look at Tony Nese as well, but I also like Ethan Page as a character as well. All ego, half ego, whatever ego he's working with that day. I love it.
He's working about a half ego right there. It could be a full ego if he gets really excited.
Mm-hmm. I feel that Mark was jumping the gun a lot during this promo, because he was interjecting at the wrong parts. It looked like he was nervous, which is really weird for this backstage segment, because normally he's on when he's talking. Lexi, the microphone was not picking up the right cues as well. Thankfully, it was quiet enough in my house that I can listen to what everyone was saying off mic, but yeah, this was not well produced, and Smart Mark kind of made it a little difficult. And I feel like I had also kind of messed up Tony Nese a little bit, because at first he wasn't sure of himself when he was talking, once it came to him and Ethan getting closer, coming face to face. But then once he got into it, it was like, okay, this is fine.
I'll say this for it. It seemed to be they were trying to go for almost cinema verite. This was more trying to be more real than it was, because this is a pre-taped. They could have done a couple takes of this and it could have been more smooth. So this had to have been something that we're like, yeah, we're going to make it seem like it's just breaking down. It didn't register for you or resonate, but it may have for other folks as well. So I don't think it was needed on tonight's thing to further anything for Final Battle. It probably could have been pulled to give us a little time, but it's there. But we'll move quickly on to, honestly, this was one of my matches of the night. I absolutely love this match between the Renegades, Rachel Ellering, and Layla Hirsch. Storytelling in the ring was spot on. Layla needs to do it herself. She doesn't want any help. Rachel is in peril as the big, strong person, which was insane. And the Renegades just healing it up, taking it on, pulling off Rachel's and pulling down her headband and going after everyone's knees and taking out. And I also saw Rachel with the taped knee was having some issues in real life, like kayfabe. Knee was a little bit off. So this was a hard-hitting, big match that set up 3 great storylines. What do you guys take away from this now? Where do you think these competitors are going to be heading to next, even with the ending too with Maria?
I kind of feel like this outcome was what Maria... It gave me this feeling that Maria paid for taking the fall by the Renegades, because I think what she's going to play at is that Layla got taken out, and that it was Rachel who got pick up the win without her. Kind of play on that, because she's already... It's not like they were friends that she's got to build this rift between, but it's more that they were competitors who had to work together. And so I think she's going to play with that seed of doubt in Layla Hirsch's mind, and kind of build up this need to have to beat Rachel Ellering, and not just beat her, but beat her down. I did like the fact that the Renegades got to do some more tag team wrestling, which they haven't gotten to do in a while. And even when there were some hiccups, they got to they adjusted enough that it was almost like it distracted Rachel and Layla enough for them to take advantage of it. And that double suplex they hit on Rachel Ellering was really good. It was really hard impact. Like Mikey was saying, I hope out of this we get to see Layla kind of build up as a good heel competitor, and out of this we get to see Rachel build up as a new face competitor.
This was, at this point of the evening, probably my match of the night, but then the main event kind of threw that out the window for me personally, and I'll get into my reasons when we get there. But again, I love that in the small amount of time that Rachel has been wrestling for Ring of Honor, still no confirmation if you signed her yet, Ring of Honor. You really should get on top of that. It's really weird because Ring of Honor started off strong with a crop of women, and then I have been seeing less and less of them as we've gotten to this point. I do appreciate that this match, again, was great. And Maria Kanellis is being the Geppetto in this situation, and she's pulling the strings for everything.
Someone who is signed and doing a lot of good work there is obviously the people involved in our next wonderful promo, which I know you hated because of the drama in it. Athena and Billy Starks get backstage, and Athena, while impressed is a strong word for what she is with what Billy's been doing and seeing where she's going, now there's going to be a harder look at like who's in the division, what's going on, and Athena's still watching her back. So she's trying to pit her minions in training against each other. Is Lexi going to get in the ring? Are we going to see her have to decide between the two people? What's happening here?
I thought this was really good storytelling because Athena, as much as she wants them to kind of do her bidding and be her minions, and she wants that unified front, she doesn't want them to be friends with each other that much. She doesn't want their friendship to be stronger than their need for her, approval. So she's trying to play them against each other. I noticed she demoted Lexi down to Minion 2. I love the shirts that they had on, the new Alpha, Beta, and Bestie shirts. So I again, this for me, this was great storytelling. I really enjoyed it. There are parts of it that you're like, oh, kind of at, but they're the parts that I think you're supposed to have those reactions to. So I think this storyline is the storyline of Ring of Honor right now.
So overall, I really enjoyed this promo. This is another point where I'm like, if you do this correctly, Ring of Honor, I can also say I was correct in calling this. But that also makes me sad because, as I said last week, and what me and Jesse talked about when we were dealing with Team MIT last week, is that eventually Billy is going to turn on Athena in the sense because I think Lexi is going to be the catalyst in which either Athena beats up Lexi or Lexi gets hurt in some way. And that's going to be the catalyst for Billy to full on just beat Athena to a pulp.
I also, just for everyone here, I can hear in my ear Jesse across the street talking about how he just wants to protect Billy from herself and make sure she's safe and that she's doing good things. And he doesn't need to protect her, but everything in him as a father and also as a fan is like, no, you sweet innocent thing, don't change. Marina Shafir in her match with Amira, where that just the kiss and the dead face as she holds her like Hogan held Richard Belzer in that headlock and just knocked her out. Like, ooh, they're finally finding that groove for Marina Shafir and just her no selling and taking every hit that people have got. My God, she's like a Terminator.
It was was it Saving Private Ryan, the moment. It was very much that, just like, don't fight it, just go to sleep, just go to sleep.
Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
I hope this is a fun build for Marina Shafir into kind of a similar build that I think a lot of people had hoped for Shayna Baszler when she moved up to the main card in WWE. I hope they kind of use her as this, like you said, Terminator-esque kind of warrior, because I think she could have some really great matches with some of the other women in Ring of Honor. I will say Amira, her opponent, she was jacked. I'd like to get to see bigger matches from her to see what she's capable of. But yeah, I'm hoping this is another big build for another competitor in the women's division.
I really enjoyed this match. I missed Marina Shafir on my television screen. Mrs. Roderick Strong. That's for the After Hours podcast.
After Hours podcast is what the whole thing was when she's taking her socks off at the ring and some guys are like,
can we just talk about it? Let's talk about that real quick.
thank you for Caprice calling it out. Too.
Yes.
So good.
This is why Caprice and Ian are the best commentary team on any weekly television for me, because they are us. Because they call out and they have the same questions as we do while we watch this, and I appreciate it. And I was confused at first because I'm like, she's wearing shoes to the ring. What's happening? Like, maybe she got told she couldn't. And then she took it off and threw the socks in the audience. I'm like, never mind. But yeah, the dude in the front, sir, we don't shame anyone here on this channel, but sir, that was a little way too enthusiastic for me.
Oh my god, it's wonderful to have good commentary like that. Like, I'm so spoiled here because I go back to Dynamite and Collision, and I'm like, okay, half these people need to be taken back to the home, and the other half are just completely out of their minds. But speaking of out of their minds, the next match was, just a great kind of mashing of styles and of eras, as we had Io Del Vikingo and Commander taking on Daniels and Seidel, and just the ring awareness, the veteran ability. I loved Christopher Daniels. Like, after Commander walked the ropes, he went like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. No, I'm not gonna do that. Like, just playing it up and having fun. You can tell that this is like him just going through the best times of his life to be doing this while he still can, and still teasing like he's not going to be respectful and maybe turn back into the fallen angel. But I mean, it's really cool. And speaking of Ian and Caprice being the best, Mikey, did you do the math as fast as Ian did to get the 1238 for the double 540?
Listen, my hat goes off to Caprice. Again, that is why he and Ian are the best at the commentary team. It just feels great because they care. They care about the show. They care about the wrestlers. They care about what's happening in the ring. And that's all I'm asked for any commentary team.
I also was really happy when Caprice said, like, great job on the quick math, Ian, and Ian shouted out his math teacher from middle school. And I thought of Mikey. I'm like, you're affecting somebody else. Someone else is going to be the next Ian Riccaboni, and they're going to call out Mr. Mikey for being there for him.
I'm happy that you said that, too. I thought the same thing. I was going to put a note down about it, and I was like, that's fine. But yeah, I think one of the nice things about them, too, is they don't feel the need to play into the, like, one of us is the bad guy leaning, commentator. One of us is the, straight-laced by the books kind of a thing. And they play into their differences, but they do it in such a fresh comedic way. They're so on top of it with the matches, too. It's just really enjoyable. And it's like listening to the commentators from American Ninja Warrior. You're listening to two people who are just literally enjoying what they're watching and getting to share it with other people who are enjoying getting to watch it.
I'm going to show my age here. They remind me of the two brothers from Car Talk on NPR. Like, just how much fun they have with each other. So we're talking about the commentary when the match was also amazing between these guys. Like, how could you had some of the best luchadors in the world?
Listen, this is what I tell people. I was just like, you want to know how a match is enjoyable for me? Do I like the in-ring action? Marina Shafir choking out her opponent? Check. Is the commentary team hyping them up like everybody's personal hype man, like I do when I watch wrestling? Check. There is a synergy between what you see in the ring and what you hear as well, because visually and auditorily, you need to be able to do both in order to have an overall pleasurable experience. I did find it interesting that Christopher Daniels was acting more heel in this match for me personally, which I really, really enjoyed. I was like,
I want to see if they're going to keep Seidel and Daniels working together like this. I want them to go a little heelish. I liked when the fans started kind of cheering for their opponents or booing their actions, that they were just like, okay, fine. And I'd like to see it. I'd like to see them go that way, especially if this is kind of a last hurrah, and just get to play into that, like, doing what they do well, but also be a little dirty because they're two veterans. Watching Seidel in this match, if this is Daniel's kind of farewell tour, I hope they're going to do something kind of fun with him. I'd like to see him maybe go down that dark path and maybe mentor some young, Action Andretti, Darius Martin kind of level competitors that are kind of just, it's getting kind of repetitive with them. But be able to use his talents to lead some of the younger talent, because man, he can go still. Him going against the two luchadors, was phenomenal, and he had some moves he was pulling up that were incredible.
I appreciate that Ring of Honor actually allows the luchadors to win matches. I'm going to leave it at that.
You know, I was so excited for this match already coming up to our main event, and then it was given the time it needed. I wrote down in big letters, this was a pay-per-view level match given to us on giveaway internet TV. Dalton Castle versus Eddie Kingston for the ROH title. And between the early storytelling of Castle getting frustrated and having to go and run around and arguing the ref, whether it's a 10 count or a 20 count that he gets for this, to Kingston finding the technical wizardry to block the Greco-Roman, collegiate style that Castle has. Castle finally getting those flips and those suplexes, the striking back and forth. Like this told the story for me of two wrestlers who have wrestled every style and in every place across the planet and realize that they've now bumped into each other and they need to outsmart each other to be better than the other. They're not going to be better. They have to be smarter. And I lived for every minute of this, the oohs, the ahs, everything else. And yes, Dalton Castle lost, but he didn't lose to the wrong person.
Yeah, coming into this match, I was a little, I don't know if I was frustrated or down on it. I think part of this was what just recently happened with the TV title, and then getting these less than ideal builds for the last two title defenses for Eddie Kingston. I was just a little bummed by it going into this, but I will say by the end of it, I was really happy. I would love to see maybe if this does push Dalton Castle over the edge and this builds to a rematch for a title match between the two of them, because I would love to see this on a pay-per-view with a good build-up and get to see these two go at it, because I feel like as good as they did in this match, they still have another level that they can go to, especially if we're seeing Dalton Castle going even farther over the deep end.
I'm actually going to disagree with you a tiny bit, Andrew.
Dissension in the ranks.
No. I also felt a little disappointed given the fact that this build was literally not even a week's build. It was literally like days worth of build once we figured out. But I don't mind it only because the fact that Ring of Honor, though many of their champions are missing from weekly programming, at least the titles get defended on the weekly show, as I put this in air quotes, compared to other companies where most of their titles are only being defended at pay-per-views now. It doesn't necessarily matter that the build to this was weak, because at least it's being defended every single week.
Seeing Dalton Castle work this, Eddie having to use 3 back fists to take him out, there is going to be more here. There is much more ground to cover, and we're going to see it soon. So we end Ring of Honor that way. We kind of go fade to black to the end of the episode, and we get the post-credits scene with a down Eddie Kingston saying to Lexi, you're making me do this. I know it's like right after this thing, and you're making me talk about these things. And Eddie, and I say this every time I get him on my screens, you want a promo where you believe every bit of heart that's coming out of this man, that everything he's saying to you, whether it's truthful or not, he believes it. This is your person on the mic. And with him bringing up that he's here to be a champion and he has to be present to do so, he wants to take on other people and calls out and says, we've got the best champions in the world in these people. And then he calls out the people he emulates. Cassidy, Moxley, all that thing. I did write down, no Athena?
Yes! I wrote it down too!
But even so, having Kingston declare he's going to be there, and I'm hoping to believe him, this is your champion you want to represent you, which may mean Castle is going to be down to the TV championship, because if Eddie can hang on to that, I want to see a lengthy run for him. He's got to be set up for it.
Yeah, I agree. I, again, think it was kind of crappy that he didn't mention Athena. I thought, for as much as Athena is done, and I know it's unlikely that it will happen, I wish that at the pay-per-view that she would get to main event. I feel like she has earned the chance. I keep joking that she's the Ring of Honor World Champion and Eddie Kingston's the Ring of Honor Men's World Champion, because you want to talk about defending your title every week. If she's not defending it, she's wrestling on the card, so yeah, she is there.
She is there.
Yeah. Week in, week out. I hope this is a sign of investment, not just a sign of acknowledgement.
I really enjoyed this promo to end the show this week because, again, echoing what you said, JBL, Eddie Kingston makes me believe everything he says, whether he is actually correct or not. But one thing I always say about Eddie Kingston that I never take away from him is how much he cares about this business, and it kind of exudes from the promos because all his promos tend to be more grounded in reality, which is weird because we're watching people wrestle and tell crazy storylines, and you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. I normally am not a big fan of, without saying the words, popping shots off at other companies and other champions, but when it comes from Eddie Kingston, a lot of his promos is nothing but cold hard fact. There's not a single lie in what he said, and he's able to eloquently be able to deliver a promo where, yeah, I kind of agree with him. I was a little miffed that he didn't mention Athena, but in terms of your other champions, and this is what we've been saying as we've been reviewing every single week, outside of Eddie and Athena, and to a certain extent Mox and Orange Cassidy, the rest of your big main title, or even just champions in general, across all the companies, most of them are kind of spinning their wheels or not doing anything. And I think that that's what frustrates me a lot when it comes to wrestling. As I mentioned earlier in the review, if you're going to hold the title, I'm not asking you to defend it every single week on television because you want to save big marquee matches for your pay-per-views. But with the model of you only save those championship matches for the pay-per-views, then you have a bunch of talent that just spin their wheels. Your champions are spinning their wheels. You care more about records than you do actually bringing a history and a prestige to the title, which is why I unapologetically protect the Ring of Honor titles, because they have such a history to them. Them being subjugated to just props in storylines is what makes me heated, because there's a history and there's prestige and there's stories upon stories that these titles have been through, have seen, have gone through with a variety of people, whether they're still with the company or not. And I think Eddie is the best Ring of Honor World Champion that we've had in this iteration of Ring of Honor.
We have come to the end of our Ring of Honor show. So, gentlemen, let's get your empanada reviews here, starting with Andrew, going to Mikey. How many empanadas did this do for you? Are you still hungry afterwards? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not starving, but this was a 7.6 out of 10 for me. It got a C rating for me. It was good, but not great and not spectacular. There were some really high spots for me. The main event was great. Seidel and Vikingo and Daniels and Commander was a great match. There were some other good matches, and then there were some matches that were just kind of middle of the road, but nothing I was super let down upon. So yeah, it was a C for me.
I give this a solid B- for me, and my reasoning is I actually really enjoyed all the matches. Even the squash matches ended up being really fun because they involved people I actually like. I was really impressed with the Renegades this episode too, just because they're doing what we have always said they're best at, which is tag team wrestling is great. Their singles is improving, but tag team wrestling is, like they said in their words, is their bread and butter, which I appreciate. The main event obviously was my match of the night, only because Dalton Castle and Eddie Kingston are two of my favorite peoples on this brand, but also watching them dig to parts of the character that we have yet to see. Dalton Castle having to get more vitriol with his style going up against Eddie, and then Eddie having to rely on more than just his hard hits and his bruiser style of wrestling made me excited. And couple that with the promo, my only hope is the next couple weeks as we build towards Final Battle, because I feel like starting next week, we're officially starting that chapter into building towards Final Battle. I hope we get to see some people that we like end up being on this card. I give this a solid B- for this week's Ring of Honor.
I'm also going about 7.5, almost 8 empanadas on this one. I am very full. I enjoyed everything else. I forgot to point this out. I'm wearing a Sasquatch t-shirt because I like the Squatch matches so much and enjoyed everything else. So it was a fulfilling evening. It was a better go-home show than Dynamite had for the go-home show for their stuff going on right now, and it wasn't a go-home show. So if you get a chance to go out of your way, watch this on Watch ROH. It's worth your time to kind of get a good feel for what ROH is. Gentlemen, at first, this is going to be tentative because we were back together for the first time ever. We forgot to do our handshakes just like before, but I have a newfound respect for both of you because of what you've talked about tonight, because of what you've delved into. So please put your hands in, shake my hand. Code of Honor is given and taken there. And for all of us here at the Bro, thank you to you Bi-Conics fans for sticking with us on here. Check us out at bcwrestlepod online. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, get those alert bells going right there. And please, as I said before, leave us memes, anything else in the comments you want to give us. We want to hear from you, especially you, Bronson. Get Beefcake to talk to us as well. We need this to happen. But remember, because you're here at the Bi-Conics, you are Bi-Conic. We all are Bi-Conic together because we love sharing this amazing wrestling art form with you, especially ROH. And we'll see you in the next video.